Today we're going to take a look at our session at Telefunken Studios, where we recorded Dylan's drums with their brand new lines of mics and their vintage microphones. And we're going to see if we can make the brand new modern Telefunken mics sound like the vintage mics. So I'll be honest, I thought it was going to take me like a bunch of hours and like all these crazy plugins and techniques. I used one plugin and it took me about 10 minutes, and I think it sounds pretty darn close. Let me show you what we're looking at here. The vintage mics are colored in this orangish gold color, and so for the vintage mics we have the D12 on the kick, we have the Neumann M84 on the snare, we have Telefunken U47 on the mono overhead, the Altec 633 as the kit center mic. And then for the modern Telefunken mics, we have the Telefunken M82 on the kick. We have the snare is the Telefunken M80. The mono overhead is the Telefunken TF11. And the center kit is the Telefunken M81. I didn't even really touch any levels. The only thing I actually did for the mix was I used FabFilter Pro Q3, and it has a match EQ function. So I match EQ'd each Telefunken mic to its vintage counterpart. The way we have the match EQ set up is via a pre-fader send here, and that goes from the vintage mic into the sidechain input of this FabFilter Pro Q3 right up here. So that's bus 25 coming in, and that's pre-fader send with the volume all the way up. And then what we do is we go here to Analyzer, and you have the EQ match section, and you change this to external sidechain. And then we're going to play a little of the original, which would be the actual Telefunken mic, because that's what we're trying to match to the vintage mic. So we're going to play the Telefunken mic, and we're going to record that in to FabFilter. And then we can pause that. And then we can record some of the vintage mic in. See, this is coming in red. And then we'll click match. And now let's hear the Telefunken mic again. Now it has this crazy EQ curve on it. So here's the kick with the Telefunken mic. And here's the kick with the vintage mic. Here's the Telefunken M82 with the FabFilter EQ matching the vintage mic. I basically did that for all of the mics, the kick mic, the snare, the mono overhead, and the kit center. And here's the whole kit with the Telefunken mics. And here's the whole kit with the vintage mics. Finally, here's the full kit with the FabFilter EQ on the Telefunken mics. Now, in a real-world situation, you're probably not going to have the stems of both the source and the target of what you're trying to match EQ. So what you can do in your home studio is you can take the full stereo mix of the original sample that you're trying to recreate, and you can take that EQ curve and then match the EQ of the full mix of your mics, your recording. So the EQ would go on your recording to try to match that to the original. Or you can take little pieces, like you cut out just the kick, and then match that to your kick and that sort of thing. So the possibilities are really endless with Match EQ. I just kind of got lucky on this particular example. So I thought it was pretty wild that with almost hardly any effort, I was able to make the brand new Telefunken mics, which by the way are far less expensive than the really expensive vintage mics by like thousands of dollars. And they sounded pretty similar just with a little bit of EQ treatment. So anyway, I hope that was informative, and thanks for watching, and definitely check out Telefunken mics and creating the sound.